So in this case, we have, we actually, have several programs, that we're trying to institute right away. I mean, we're working hand in hand, with the NRA, to
the National Roads Authority.
Yeah, the National Roads Authority. Thank goodness that they have a great leader, who understands, I mean, most of what we are talking about, and he holds them very dear to his heart. And also, we're actually, making recommendations, for them to, come up, with a roads fund, to help fund some of the projects, that, the government, or should I say, that the ministry is trying to execute. I mean, any country, you go into, they have a tax levy on gas that's purposely for roadway maintenance. I mean, sad to say, Gambia doesn't have that. And these are things, that we definitely need to look into. And as I said earlier, we're looking at, from a design standpoint, so many different things, that we need to change, But more than anything, we need to try to help the people, I wouldn't say, in power, but the people in key positions to make decisions on some of these things, understand the need for the Gambia, to have certain major civil structures to help accommodate any growth, and I'm talking about future growth for that matter, that the country may experience. Part of the reason why New York City is such a great city is they pay close attention to these heavy civil structures, to the point that they decided to put them all on the ground. Well,
in other words, you build into the future.
You build into the future. You build with the future in mind. And I understand that some of these heavy.
But we have this problem of planning when it comes to settlements.
Well, I had a profession, that always told us that, I mean, you plan 5 times, you design twice, and you build once.
Interesting.
Once you do that, you will never make mistakes. The reality is, we need to plan properly. And, we need to
You design 5 times?
No, you plan 5 times.
You plan 5 times. You design twice. You build once.
You build once. I mean, and, the reality is, when you do, if you take time, and really, plan it out, it'll be a rough sketch, whatever it is, you actually pretty much criticizing your own self. You're looking at your flaws. I mean, let's face it, engineers are not God. I mean, they're humans. They're liable to make mistakes too. That's why you review, and review. But the reality is, if you take time, and understand that sustainability needs to be the main target versus execute now and re-execute later, then your thought on planning will change dramatically. Simply because, you look at things and be like, okay, well, I can go ahead and execute this right now, but if I don't plan for X, Y, and Z that's coming in the future, it's going to give me a problem. That pretty much means everything I've executed right now is going to be a complete failure. Or I'll have to come back and tear it down to accommodate for the growth that shall be experienced. But if you plan for the growth and replan for another growth, plan again for growth, when you go to execution, you're going to execute for the biggest growth. At least you've tripled it. Then you have 3 times growth before you even consider changing anything or destroying what you have already executed.
You're talking about sustainability. I think this is important here, especially in our own case.
Absolutely.
And more so your area of expertise. Not much of it exists in this country.
That's
We're
the
talking
problem.
of building up capacity, sustainability for that matter. We're talking about the Gambianization of this economy, of the country itself.
Yeah.
If you look at across the range of variables here, absolutely, local capacity is the minimum in terms of major projects and programs. But how do you sustain?
Yeah. You use your resources wiser. And actually, this is not engineering, this is economics. Okay? If you have limited resources, you want to use it to address your best needs. And when you address those needs,
you prioritize, in other words.
absolutely, you have to prioritize. But when you address those major needs, you don't want to come back to them and readdress them again at all. You want to do it once. And part of the problem is in the Gambia, especially when it comes to the roadway sector. I mean, we don't have to build roads every year, the same roads every year. All we have to do is just do it once and do it right the first time, and we'll be okay. But the problem has been, case in point, if we have a budget to build a mile of road that's going to last for 25 years, for some reason, I'm finding out that contractors are finding a way to trim off the quality out of the road budget. Instead of building a road that's going to last for 25 years, they'll build a road to last for 5 years.
Yes.
So what's going to happen? 5 years down the line, you'll have to come back, rebuild the same road again that you just spent so much money to build. This is a cultural problem in the Gambia. And I mean, as an expert, it actually troubles me to see what I consider such a waste of resources, because I know that we can get in there and do it once, and it will last.
But I have a problem here, because these contracts are, these things are outsourced and contracted to foreign firms. But you have resident Gambian engineers who are supposed to supervise these things.
Right.
If quality is compromised, standard is compromised, they should be able to know. But sometimes it's a question of them being part of.
I mean, absolutely. And the things that we are actually looking at, and Mark, I'm actually, no disrespect, to Gambian engineers, but putting into context what's needed. We have to have a trained body of professionals who care more about quality than just getting out there, and pretty much, dancing to the whims of these foreign companies whose ultimate goal is to maximize profit. They don't care, how crappy the job is. They just want to get it done and get out.
I just don't want to cut you short. If you drive to the airport, at the AU highway, Kama highway intersection where you have the traffic light, I could remember the president personally had to be on the ground on several occasions, having spotted faults with the system.
Right.
He asked them to readjust. They did the adjustment. He came back again, and still there were problems.
Yeah.
They had to. So these are some of the problems. If he was not out there to see for himself personally, that would have been the state of affairs. We would have gone over it, and then the problem would have been still there.
Well, not just looking at that.
And this is happening in several places.
Absolutely. And now looking at that, let's just step back and take a picture of the president. I mean, you're talking about the president
Himself personally.
Himself having to wear the hat of an engineer to instruct and direct somebody to say, look, you're doing this the wrong way. I think there's a problem, and a professional problem, call it cultural or whatever it may be, that the so-called inspectors, engineers, who should have been the eyes and ears of the government, not pointing that out, and the president himself and how to get out there and do it. That's a problem. As professionals, they should have been the one to go to the president and say, sir, we observe this such and such to be a problem.
Absolutely.
Our recommendation is we do X, Y, and Z to fix this problem. If not, this is potentially what the consequences could be. But if you have the president himself getting out there, having to do it.
Having to do it.
That means
the problem is serious.
Exactly. And these are the things that's from a professional standpoint, I mean, that's what kills me. It pretty much, tells me that the president does not have any help. The reality is, he